Welcome to episode 92 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my co-host, Warren Sklar, is here. How are you doing, Warren?
I'm here. I am doing as well as possible. And Thursday? Is it the days just don't make sense anymore.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, they make no sense. So I'm going with Thursday. So yeah, I'm good. How about you?
Yeah. Same way here. I'm just working it from home and doing the old sit in the house and self-quarantined, and just like I think a lot of us out there. But that's why we got. That's why we got you to watch us and listen to us and hear about everything that has to go with iOS. So there's plenty of news out there. So we're hit some news stories here, and then a couple topics this week. It's Apple's birthday, April 1st, 1976.
Where's your soundboard?
Yeah. Then iPad is 10 years old, so we got another anniversary, and then your withdrawal from beta is back. It's back.
It's over. Yeah, my the week long of being on the same release of the software as all the normals out there.
Yeah,
really took a toll on me. It was worse than the quarantine.
So let's get to the first story. Exclusive. 9 to 5 Mac just published this as we record this about 2 hours ago. iPhone 9 launch imminent. 2020 iPhone S, quote unquote, iPhone SE is in red, white, and black. So they're being patriotic a little bit, but black instead of blue. But 9 to 5 Mac learned that there was some new information about the long-rumored entry-level iPhone, which we're thinking it's going to be like the entry-level, low-priced iPhone, which you never hear the low in price and iPhone in one sentence. And they've got it detailed out pretty well here. I'm impressed enough. You know, they've got 3 colors, and they've got cases that are available for it. Sizes of storage, 64 gigs all the way to 256. But they're saying the pricing, they can't confirm it, but $399 is probably going to be a base price. If that is the case, this phone is going to sell like crazy. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm looking through the article. What's the size going to be, the actual physical size?
That's the only thing they're not telling everybody, is you don't have an actual description of the size. I'm thinking it's going to be probably similar to the iPhone 11, maybe even the iPhone 10 as far as size. I'm guessing.
Right, because the SE was definitely the 4-inch version.
The 4-inch screen, right. And everybody loved that real small size one. But
they love the size one. And the XR, the 10R, the 11 is basically the low cost, model. So it's might not be that either. So you think maybe it's going to be like the size of the 8, pretty much?
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. It's going to be hard to say what they decide to do with that. So it'd be interesting to see. We'll definitely be watching and seeing it. They say tomorrow, so as we record this, so stay tuned. I guess we might even be talking about it next week.
Yeah, don't know. I'm not particularly excited about the phone, but a lot of times they'll release a few things at the same time. So I wouldn't be surprised if something else jumped out at the same time as this phone when it does.
Yeah.
Don't know what. It's not going to be the Magic Keyboard that I want so badly. But
put the price towards a Magic Keyboard. That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Apple lets Amazon Prime Video app offer in-app purchases on iPhone, iPad, and Apple TV. The Amazon Prime Video, app's always has been on those platforms for a while, but they never really would let you order the stuff through the app. You'd have to go outside the app to do it because it was. Because Apple and Amazon always were at wits with each other, but apparently they've kind of kissed and made up here, from what I'm reading here, and it's allowing Amazon to use its own payment system and skirting that in-app purchase screen. Meaning, does Apple get a cut of this anymore? Maybe not. Nor do they. I don't think they even did. That's the thing. So it's even saying there's going to be a dedicated store tab where they can make their purchases of TV shows and movies. But this is going to be interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, no, we talked a little bit about it yesterday, and yesterday I didn't.
Yeah, we did.
I said I didn't read that they had the Apple TV app as well, and I said that would probably be the most important place to have it. And so it is including the Apple TV, which is good. I'm listening to some newscasts and podcasts. There's some speculation that maybe Amazon, kicks back to Apple outside this whole transaction. They, give them a
Yeah,
percentage of something. Um, but my other feeling is, I have two feelings. One is a lot of people complained that they couldn't do it because it is confusing. It's, you're
true.
sitting there on your couch, you're about to, and this has happened to me. I was, sitting on my couch, go to Amazon Prime on my Apple TV, go to watch a movie, and I want to get it. And it basically says, okay, get it. And it says how to get it. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to, and I bet a lot of people don't go through with what they're about to do because it's a pain in the butt to find a laptop. So I bet that Apple got a lot of complaints about that. And my other, thought is maybe, with everything going on, people are just kind of, the companies are being a little sympathetic towards us and making things a little bit easier for stay-at-home entertainment. That's my hope, at least.
Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely, I think so. What's going to happen? Amazon is a big player, and when it comes to entertainment, they're trying to get everybody in there just like Apple is. So why not welcome the competition? Because Apple seems to be opening up theirs, and by putting it on smart TVs, Apple TV Plus app, and other platforms. So why not? We share the wealth when it comes to that. So
yep.
Other story caught my eye was Apple and Goldman Sachs are letting the Apple card holders defer their April payments. How nice of them! It's a way of you can easily opt in just by sending a message and from the Wallet app and informing Apple Card that they want to take a 1 month reprieve, and there'll be no interest charged to that. And sure enough, they did it. And didn't you say you did it? And it was like within minutes, right?
It's pretty instant. Yeah, I did it just to test it out. I bought something, but I paid it off anyways after I spoke to them. But yeah, if you just go into the Apple app, if you go into your wallet and you go to the Apple Card and under transactions, you pick a transaction and there's a little button that says report an issue. Click on that. It opens up a iMessage. Basically, it says to Apple, but it's really Goldman Sachs. And you say, I want to not pay. Basically, you say, I don't want to pay. I read that I don't have to pay my bill this month. You're like, okay, I could certainly help you with that, and all of a sudden you get an email saying you don't have to pay this month. So
yeah, I tried it too, and it was a matter of minutes. I mean, just send a text to them, and I got the email and looked at the date was changed to May 31st. So
yeah, so that was it's 2 months now. It was March. They did March, and now they're doing April as well.
Right. So anybody want to take advantage of that? Check it out, because you may need a bit of a break.
Even if you don't, I mean, it's free money.
True. It gives you another extra month so you don't have to pay it off.
Exactly.
9 to 5 Mac had this interesting article today about they found a support video from Apple that actually Apple published this. Apple was referencing an unreleased AirTag item in the trackers in their new support video. Because if you look in this picture on the link we have in the show notes, of course, it has under enable offline finding, and it just says offline finding enables this device and AirTags to be found. So whoops, I guess they uploaded this video and then realized that they had took that screenshot, which of course have since immediately removed that video because the link to the video was in the article, and now it's a ghost. What do you think?
Yeah. It's been removed. It's pretty clear that it's still there. I mean, again, there was a whole leak with the AirPower where there was a picture of it in one of the in the product manual. I think it was in one of the product manuals or something. And so, I mean, this is not in ink yet, but I haven't heard, it's been delayed. I don't know if it's been delayed, but they've been talking about it for a long time at this point. It's been over a year. They've been talking about these AirTags.
Yeah, they have.
So, I mean, that was the thing with AirPower, is basically they were talking about it for a year and nothing happened. So, you get a little bit, cynical when it takes this long to release, the equivalent of basically a tracker or a tile kind of thing. So, it may come soon. It may never come. We shall see.
Hard to see. Yeah,
I'm going to want them. That's for sure.
Of course. Because Does that mean that they're Sherlocking the tiles? Because that tile was the one that has those out in the market right now. So
but there was the tile wrote something, and they said that Apple has become. Did you see this?
Yeah, that they're becoming a monopoly.
They're a monopoly, and they're becoming hard to work with, or basically hard to deal with, more or less. So, that's. I don't know if they're going to. If they do it better, I never liked the idea of the tile because it is limited to basically. Here's the article I put in there. It says tile claims Apple anti-competitive behavior has gotten worse, not better, is basically what they're saying. But anyways, if the AirTags work the way they're supposed to, then they'll be 1,000,000% better than tile will, because tile just when you're out of Bluetooth range, or even their little what do they have, a system, I forget what if they're next to other tile users, I guess is something they could see each other. But
well, I remember they originally, the ones I have, they actually, the batteries were dead, and then it was basically a throwaway item. You couldn't replace the batteries. So I know the new ones, I don't think you have to do that anymore. They recharge, I believe.
No, but just the fact that if it's out of range, then, that's useless. I thought about, with the new puppy now, we're definitely going to look at the Apple thing, because, putting a tile on the dog is pretty useless if they get out. It's only good if it's something close to you, more or less. But, if it works the way it's supposed to work, they're going to sell well, as long as they're not $300 each.
That's true. Oh yeah, and I also forgot to mention that we are broadcasting live on Facebook, and of course, our pal Guy Cyril says no, not Zoom, because he doesn't for some reason doesn't like Zoom, but that's okay.
Zoom is getting not the best of press recently, but
no, they haven't with security. I guess we could talk about that a little briefly, because we did talk about video conferencing last week. But a little bit bad press, but I'd still trust it. We're recording this now, and the stability is just incredible. Going to be doing a webinar on Saturday for my Apple user group, and I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to work real well. We got the webinar tools in place so I can keep it in control. We'll probably have about 30 or 40 people join. So, but I think it'll be fine. So anyway, we talked about that last week. We don't need to reiterate all that fun stuff.
Don't exchange credit card numbers or anything like that over Zoom.
Yeah. There you go. And Apple updated iMovie, and all the iWork apps for iOS now has Trackpad and Mouse Support, which is awesome. Yep. They earlier in the day, a couple days ago, they also released it for the Mac. So they released the new ones for iPad as well. It works on iPhones and iPads, but the Trackpad, of course, support is only on the iPad. So, and all the release notes are in here on the show notes to the link here. They got some new templates, which I thought was cool. Did you look through any of these templates on some of the pages, numbers in Keynote?
On iOS, no. I did on my Mac. I kind of opened it up and played around with it, but not on iOS yet. Yeah,
but we're going to talk about this in a little bit. The Magic Keyboard and Magic Trackpad support is awesome. I hooked the keyboard up to it too as well. It works really well. So it's definitely something that you're going to want to check out and be able to highlight text and be able to manipulate documents so much easier.
I don't even want to look at it until I get my $300 Magic Keyboard.
Because you want your touchpad on your Magic Keyboard.
I want it to be like perfect. I don't want to butcher it together with some kind of hack or some kind of old trackpad or whatever. I just want that new trackpad feeling.
So yeah, check that out. So, and we talked last week about the iPad Pro, and I think our final decision was that I don't think it's worth upgrading if you have the 2018 version, right? That's what we said. Well, this is Mac Rumors, but iFixit had found most of the internals of the 2020 iPad Pro are the same as the 2018 model. That confirms that the device is relatively just basically an incremental update. So really, the only thing you're really getting is the camera. is the upgraded camera. And they looked at the chip, the Bionic chip, which contains an 8-core GPU and enhanced thermal architecture, tuned performance controllers, and then it's also paired with 6 gigs of RAM, which is an upgrade to 4 gigs of RAM, but all but the 1 terabyte model. So I think this pretty much made the decision that it's not worth upgrading if you have the 2018.
As of now, and you know how it goes. Unless they, and they'll come out with something that only works on the LiDAR camera, and it's going to be awesome, and everybody's going to be wanting it, and it's going to be like it's going to be like Pokemon Go, but it's going to be better, and it's going to be like the thing. So that's when everybody's going to do it. But as of right now, it's not anything that I'm missing. I don't have any FOMO on this one. Not right yet.
As long as the smart keyboard works with the 2018.
Yeah, I haven't even seen. None of us have. If you don't buy it, you don't see it. So you can't go to Apple. Right. You can't go to Best Buy. You can't really even pick it up.
That's true. That's true.
Which is probably a good thing for Apple at this point, because if it was that much different, or if some people needed to see it, it would be a problem. So, but again, we said before, if you don't have an iPad Pro and you're looking to get one, then go with the 2020.
For sure.
For sure. Yeah. Yep.
iFixit, of course, no surprise, rated this repairability at 3 out of 10. I watched the video, and there's tons of adhesive everywhere. It amazes me how they get those apart, and how they get those things apart. But that's where I say,
man, you got to put all that stuff in there somehow, and then you can't just can't use like screws. That's just too tight. You got to
right. And that's how it's got to go here. So,
yep.
This article caught my eye was iOS 13.4 and Mac OS Catalina prevented you from making FaceTime calls from some older devices. Yep. And they said the latest software released by Apple a week ago will prevent you from making these FaceTime calls to older devices. iOS 13.4, iPad OS 13.4, and others were unable to make FaceTime calls to devices running iOS 9.3.5, 9.3.6, and 9.3.6 is the latest available for the 4S. And the iPad Mini and the iPad 2. And so in other words, if you have really old devices like that, you're out of luck. I think that's a fair assumption, because those devices are really old. I mean, you're going 6 to 8 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned, but I am working a couple hours now outside the house, and I do work at it's a retirement community / assisted living nursing kind of thing. And I've seen iOS devices that are old. I mean, the other day I saw somebody brought me like something with the original, I think it was the first iPad, speaking of the 10-year anniversary, with the software running on it, and they were using it. And I'm like, so these people, a lot of the things I'm doing is getting in this time is getting these people to talk to their family. And if you're that poor person on the other side who's trying to talk to this person on these old iPads and iOS devices and it doesn't work, it's not a great time for this to happen. So Apple had said that this is not, they're like, oh, we'll look into this. It's not a thing they think I don't want to say meant, I'm sure they meant to do it, but I don't think they expected anybody to notice, and they have. So I think when people started writing them, they kind of took notice and they made a story. Yeah. So my guess is that it will be sorted somehow.
Well, I think why it got press is because of the pandemic and everybody at home, and everybody's using FaceTime in more unprecedented amounts, and
it's just a bad time.
Bad time.
It's a bad time to cut off communication between and again, the older generation usually has older iOS devices and not older iPads. So
limited the budget. They don't want it. They're not ready to upgrade, and but it is what it is. Other article was SiriusXM. I'm a SiriusXM subscriber, but I think this is great that SiriusXM opened up a free trial to SiriusXM Radio online and in the app. They have a free trial going on that'll go on from when this was recorded till May 15th of this year, 2020. It'll instantly give it's only in America, so you only U.S. listeners, 300 plus channels. Allow you to listen to your favorite stations, even Howard Stern, politics, sports stations, all that fun stuff. I think they've got some great content. So if you've been thinking about looking at SiriusXM before, check it out. Go to SiriusXM.com. Links in the show notes here, and you can use it on your SiriusXM app, and you can also sync it up with CarPlay if you want, and be able to listen to it in your car. So, what'd you think?
I think seriously. Yeah.
So if you're not a subscriber, you should do it.
Yep. Seriously, do it.
Yeah. Other big story was Apple bought the weather app Dark Sky, and this was an interesting purchase. And this app is found to be one of the most accurate weather apps out there. And I know my favorite weather app actually is Carrot. I don't know about yours, but that's right. You don't buy apps when it comes to that. But I think Carrot's a great app. Yeah. I think Carrots is just an amazing app, and they were using a lot of Dark Sky's API. But now what's going to end up happening? They've already made the announcement that if you have it on Android or on your wearable device, it's no longer going to be available. They're taking it out of the App Store on those stores, and it's going to be exclusive to iOS. They are by July 1st. They'll be shutting down Android and Wear OS. That's it. They're going to probably not accept any more signups for their API. And it'll shut down by the end of 2021. So I think, like the article says, I anticipate that Apple will more than likely will probably build our Dark Sky into its own weather app, or just make it the standard de facto app with all this in there. Because since they right now get everything from the Weather Channel, so what'd you think?
Yeah, it's not particularly accurate the way it is, so it can't get any worse, I think. So
yeah,
but I heard people talk about Dark Sky, and I know they like it. So I mean, what is it? It's pretty like up to the minute kind of stuff, or up to the not second, but it's pretty
right.
Like it kind of tells you where things are coming, right? Like clouds and rain. And
yeah, it's very accurate. It's right down to you better get your umbrella out, and it's right. I mean, it says it's going to rain in 10 minutes, and
I would say maybe I'll try it, but now I definitely don't want to pay for it now. That would be stupid. I gotta wait.
Yeah. That's that, and then of course they announced T-Mobile and Sprint. The merger is final now, but there is a little bit of a snafu with that. The public utility in California still has to approve it to make it legal in California. One of the biggest states in the country. But I can't see that not happening. But I'm pretty excited about it. They've already said in the article we have on here that they're not going to make any changes to either side, both Sprint and T-Mobile. Keep all the plans in place, and nothing's going to change. I think really what's going to end up happening is just a rebranding, and then eventually all the Sprint stores will become T-Mobile stores, and I'm sure they will probably close ones that are nearby to each other and try to consolidate. I'm sure those things will start happening as well. So.
And I think they said they weren't gonna. You said they're not going to make any changes to Sprint's the plans or too much changes to. But they did say they were going to take their spectrum and turn into the 5G spectrum. I think is what they were saying.
Right.
Good. It's all good for us. I mean,
yeah, I'm a T-Mobile customer. I'm happy, and I'm even happier. This even makes me happy too. Is even though I probably wouldn't have ever paid for it, but that new network called Quibi is going to start up on April 6th. It's a new network that's going to have all this independent content, and I think it was started up with Meg Whitman, the former CEO of eBay and HP. It's supposed to launch on April 6th, and T-Mobile customers, if you're on a Magenta or T-Mobile One plan, will actually get access to the streaming service for a full year for free, which is pretty cool. It's ad based, but hey, free is free.
Free is
And
free.
then they'll give you the option at that point is if you want to, you either can keep it, and then it would take over your Netflix account because you get, because us T-Mobile customers who have those same plans get free Netflix. So I think I'll lean towards keeping Netflix. Thank you.
Oh, do you have to choose? I didn't know you had to choose.
At the end of the year, you have to choose which one you want to keep. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I
think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So these are like 10. So I'm reading. It's basically you get, and I've seen the commercials already. But it's like 10-minute or less videos, which kind of is not a bad idea. I think as long as the content's good. I mean,
they got some stuff like Chrissy Teigen, that's the John Legend's wife. It's going to have a court show, and Jennifer Lopez, World Forte, BBC News, a lot of other stuff is going to be on there. And they also say there's another major feature of Quibi is called Turnstile, where you can switch your phone between portrait and landscape mode.
Does interesting things. Yeah,
we'll see what happens. Another piece of another content provider that's out there that we get to consume, I guess.
I could do anything for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And last story we have here is the U.S. Census employees will now trade in paper forms for 500,000 iPhone 8 handsets this year. This was an Apple Insider. It's a census year, and then we're going to have census takers that will have automated ways of being able to submit this information instead of pen and clipboard like they've done in the past. So this is quite a milestone because this is centuries old how we've done the census every 10 years, but that this year marks that centuries old event. The U.S. households will be able to respond online, which I did. Did you do your census report yet?
No, not yet.
They're going to come to your house if you don't do it.
I was actually one of those people. I was a census taker years and years and years ago.
So it looks like
in high school.
They're actually contracting with an Illinois-based firm here in Chicago, CDWG, to lease 500,000 iPhones for census employees. Yeah, they're known as enumerators to go door to door with taking the count, and they're very proud of being able to do that. I think it's great. That's great. I'm glad to hear that they're going to do this.
Yeah, it's better than pen and paper. Although I heard they were doing like some kind of Palm Pilot thing 10 years ago, but I'm sure that didn't work out so well either. So
this is true. So let's go on to the topics of today. First discussion, I wanted to say happy birthday to Apple. It's been 44 years since Apple's founding, and they talk about Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ron Wayne were the founders, and how Ron Wayne got cold feet and decided to sell his shares, and then he became collecting Social Security living in Nevada. Whereas we know what happened to Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak.
Yeah, although he says he doesn't regret anything. If you see interviews with him.
I've seen interviews with him. Yep. And
no regrets. Yeah, he says, it's a different lifestyle. And, it is. There's something to be said about, money versus happiness. And I'm sure Steve Wozniak was very stressed out for many years of his life.
Right.
And, he's
read a lot of stories and seen a lot of movies showing his stresses.
He's very, working for Steve, with Steve Jobs, it's probably hard and, a lot of pressure on you. So, I mean, I'm sure Ron Wayne would have liked to be somewhere in between the two places, either where he ended up and where Steve Wozniak ended up. Somewhere between there probably would have been better. But is he still alive? He's still alive?
I think Ron Wayne still is. Yeah, they interviewed him for one of those documentaries. I remember seeing an interview with him a while ago. I'm sure there's plenty of them on YouTube. So if you really wanted to find out more about it, but. It's great. I mean, when I started young in my life, when I was in high school, I was using Apple IIs, and then I was dumb and didn't stay in the technology for a number of years, so I lost touch with Apple, and then come 2006 when they switched to the Intel processor on the Mac, and I finally got my first Mac, and the rest is history. And then the iPhone came, and here we are doing this podcast.
I was out in California years ago, and next to Google headquarters, there's the computer museum out there.
Yep.
And they had all sorts of Apple stuff on display, which is great. And yeah, it's just amazing to see, you know, how that all started. We actually took a ride out to Steve Jobs' house while we were out there.
Yep.
Just you try to picture, the mid 70s and what they had to work with. It's pretty amazing what they did. So yeah, happy birthday to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure Steve Jobs is always rolling in his grave, no matter what. So he'll never be happy. But he's constantly rolling. He's like he's like a rotisserie at this point. He just keeps spinning in his grave. But the mouse on the iPad and the iPad Mini, he didn't like that either. He's too small. So he's just shaking his head.
Yep. And then the other milestone was the iPad. The iPad was introduced for the first time this month in 2010. So 10 years since we've had the iPad. I remember I owned the first iPad. Did you?
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing the keynote, and I remember getting that big thing. And
that was a big iPad. I love that iPad.
That was huge.
When I first got it.
It had a lot of storage too, because I think they were using a different. Was it solid state? I can't even remember.
Oh yeah, it was solid state.
It was solid state.
16 or was it 32? I think
it was bigger than this. The subsequent ones were definitely smaller. They went down, and the first one had more storage, and that's why, like early on, a lot of people were still holding on to the first gen because they had all their movies on it, because they had a little more storage than the newer ones on it. But yeah, that thing was a beast. It was heavy. It was great. I definitely I was hooked right away, and I've had pretty much most. Obviously I skipped a couple. If I got the Pro, there's no reason I got the the latest regular iPad, so I've skipped a whole bunch in the meantime.
I did too. I didn't get every model.
But currently now I have an iPad Mini 5 and I have a iPad Pro 11-inch. So, they keep going.
Yeah, no, it was just thinking about. I mean, you just were very limited what you could do with it before. You couldn't copy and paste of that still during that time with the version of iOS.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing was that the first gen, just like they did with the first gen iPhone, iPad, the iOS did not upgrade very far. I mean, it stayed with like the original iOS until they moved to the iPad 2, and then that one lasted a long time. And we just mentioned that the iPad 2 has an iOS 9, so. But that was a great iPad. I had the iPhone. I had the iPad 2. That was a good model. Then it kept evolving. But I definitely think it's one of my favorite devices. It really is.
I think actually the iPad 1 is what I was talking about. I saw in the at my work. I think she actually had one, and it was still running. So you don't see a lot of them still in the wild actually working. Because the batteries started to go, most of them anyway. So
deteriorating. Yep, they're deteriorating. So it's a shame. But batteries. I seen iPad. The first iPads. The batteries are still going strong. So But those are the topics of those of past history. But let's go to the present and the future. You are back, baby, with beta.
And it's such a minor. I can't even.
I know there's nothing to talk about. I know.
I don't think anything actually changed. I mean, the only thing I will say is I think my iPhone does feel a little bit snappier than before.
I have it on the 10R I have here. I haven't really looked at it very closely, but they really haven't. What was it supposed to? Was there any increment? I mean, there's nothing. I don't see anything that they've.
I don't think there was anything at all that was announced, at least. So I think basically,
even in the release notes on the beta site, the developer site, it doesn't really.
I think the article just said basically they're just kind of concentrating on bug fixes until they go to the next release of the iOS 14 or whatever. So,
interesting. They went to 13.4.5 right away.
Yeah.
Instead of 1, 2, or 3.
And
before.
then they did the watch, and I did the watch too. And again, nothing earth shattering, but as I said, I think it feels a little bit snappier. So how this goes at the end of the year before WWDC, what they do is they try to perfect it to be the final version of the the major release. So that's what they're doing at this point. It's just no new features, basically just any other bugs that are left over and any other performances they could tweak is basically what they're going to do at this point.
Yep, makes sense. It totally makes sense. And that's beta. That's beta. So I found this really interesting article on iPhone hacks, and I thought we would use it as kind of a template to talk a little bit about using the mouse and trackpad with the iPad. But of course, you don't want to use it until you get your magic keyboard.
I am not doing any kind of keyboarding on my iPad until I get that thing. So yeah, absolutely not.
This article had a lot of good information. If you want to read through it, and we're going to talk. You got to help me along here a little bit. I want to touch upon it, and we can talk about it when in May when you get your smart keyboard. But
definitely.
But both the Bluetooth trackpad and mouse, they pair very easily. It pairs using Bluetooth, and you just have to use there's a code, the 4 zeros, usually with the magic keyboard. But they sync very, 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 very easily. I mean, you did that. I mean, you at least tried connecting. I'm assuming.
I don't have a trackpad. I have as I said,
mouse.
I have a Logitech mouse that has it's very similar to the Magic Mouse, where the top could kind of act as a trackpad in a sense. So I played around with that, and some of the gestures worked, but not all of them. So
yeah.
So it was fine. It did what it had to do.
The cursor moves just like it does on a Mac when you're using a mouse, really, and it's got the circle, and then that's the cursor, and it highlights everything in Pages and any other app that supports it very easily, so that's what's nice. Instead of using your finger, before you'd have to tap it. Now you can click and hold and hold it up. Changing the pointer appearance, I didn't realize you could do this, and this is actually now moving back into accessibility where it was originally. That under accessibility and under the pointer control, you can make changes to the pointer as well. And there's a bunch of other things in here you can change as well. Contrast, hiding pointer, color, pointer, all that fun stuff can be in there too.
This article spelled color wrong.
That's because it's British.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Does that bother you?
Yeah, I've gotten used to it already.
But you can go into general and under trackpad, and all the settings are in there as well, as far as the tracking speed and the scrolling and tap to click and the two finger. You can make changes in there, which is great. And then all the mouse and trackpad gestures you can use on there as well. You can open the app by tapping on an icon with one finger, and then scrolling with two fingers, and right click with two fingers. You tap. So this is all. They've kept it pretty standard, just like it is when you're on your Mac. So, app switcher, switch between apps, access the dock, and all dragging, switch between apps. You could do 4-finger swipe, and using 2 apps at a time. That's going to make it a little easier, because I still have challenges using split view. Do you use split view much?
I try. Sometimes I activate it. I don't know what I did to activate it, and I don't use it that much. I mean, I even if I perfected how to use it, I don't think I would even use it that much. I just don't use the iPad that way. I'd rather just get on a computer and do it. If I need to look at more than one thing on the screen, I'd rather not do it on the iPad. I'd rather do it on a laptop where I know how to move things around. I wonder, I guess with the Pro, if you hook up an external monitor to you could hook up a USB-C monitor to the iPad Pro. Mm-hmm. Is there any way you could do 2 different screens on that at this point? Because that would be useful.
I don't know if that's available yet.
It should be available. That would be like, because you could watch you could do a Zoom meeting on the iPad and have, like right now, I have an external monitor and I have my laptop and I'm watching you on a Zoom meeting on my laptop, and on my external monitor I have the show notes. So, I thought about, could I do that on iPad? And you can't really, because, you could with a split screen, but it's hacky. So I bet the next version of iOS will do more with this. I bet they'll do more mouse controls, trackpad controls, and I bet they'll do more multitasking as we go along.
And to talk about the word color, the guy says, don't tell Gaz the color is spelled wrong.
It is spelled wrong, yeah. They added the extra U in there. Yeah. And they pronounce it funny. They say color.
Color.
Color. Just like
I think Gaz was just in our room not too long ago. Unless I did, he is here. If he's still here,
he's probably sleeping. Hello, Gaz. Hopefully he's sleeping. I'd be sleeping.
Yeah, it's pretty late. I'm surprised he's in there.
I'm sure he's sleeping.
He must have clicked by mistake.
Crap.
So check it out. I just wanted to give kind of a bit of a review of that and talk about those those things. But we'll be talking a lot more of it once the smart keyboard comes out. So we got another month, I think, before that's going to be out. I would say May is when I think that's coming out, right?
My
smart keyboard.
My Apple Card is just like sitting there, just waiting.
It's prime and waiting, right?
Like 3% on a $300 keyboard is a couple bucks. What is that? 1% is $3. Was it $6? To $9. I'm like, get $9 back.
You're making some big money there.
$9 for you. I could almost buy an app with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
maybe I'll buy an app with it.
So check it out. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about iCloud and iCloud storage. I wanted to give everybody some tips about how to free up iCloud storage space. That's always a challenge. I mean, most of you, I hope, are paying for at least the 50 gig plan that gives you a fair amount of space. But default, which still I think is absolutely crazy. Why Apple doesn't increase this is beyond me. They can afford it. The space is only 5 gigabytes, which is that you're going to fill that up in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, why? I think it's just like it's a marketing thing. They give you so little that you know that it's useful, but you can't use it the way they give it to you. So, it drives people to. It basically says to people, if you want it, this is what it does.
Yeah,
and it's almost like it's like a try before you buy thing. It's not useful in any real world situation. So I think it's just to get people to do it. But they should give you a little bit more.
But if you're real greedy, you don't want to give Apple any of your money. I understand. You don't want to pay I think, what is it, 99 cents a month for the 50 gig plan? I think it is.
Yeah, I think so.
It costs you. That's the cost of a cup of coffee, probably, depending on where you go.
But $299 if that's due. $299 is next one up, which is the
200 gig.
200 gig, which is what I'm on. So is that what you do? What do you do? How much?
I was on the 200 gig plan, but I had some extra dough sitting in my iTunes account. I've my App Store account, so I've been doing the 1 terabyte.
I'm close. I'm right at that border of 200 gig because I do the family plan.
Yeah, that's why I got everything on one plan now.
So I'm pretty close to needing to go up to. So,
but ways of managing it. So the first place you got to go is when you go into your iPhone or your iPad for that matter, is you go into settings and then you go into click your profile, because you'll see your profile right at the top there, and then you go into iCloud, and here you'll see a detailed breakdown of all your consumed space right there at the very top. It'll show your iCloud storage, and I almost guarantee if you have 5 gigs, it's going to say 5 gigs used, 5 gigs free. I mean, I'm saying 5 gigs used and 5 gigs total as you have. So that that gives you a bit of a challenge. But ultimately, if you want to check in another spot, not just that place, you also can go into the Files app on the iPhone or iPad, and you could scroll all the way down to the bottom of that window, and then it shows how many items are sitting in the Files app and how much space is available in iCloud in that way as well. So what do you normally do as far as getting rid of some things that are on there? Well, one of the first things is notorious that gets left behind, especially for those of you who get new devices all the time, is your backups. I'm sure you've seen that, right?
Yep.
Having multiple backups sitting there for no reason.
Yep, that's the first thing I go for and delete those out.
So you can actually go through and go to the backups section in there and delete the ones that are on there. If it says this iPhone, that means don't touch that one. But there might be another iPad Pro that you don't have, or another iPad, or another iPhone for that matter. It's sitting there. Clear it all out. That'll free up a ton of space. And then the other place you can go is photos. If you don't think you want to save all your photos backed up on the cloud, or you're just going to back them up manually, let's say. Some people like to hook up their iPhone to their computer, to your Mac, and just back it up that way. You could easily do that. And there are people out there who don't like using iCloud at all. So there's an option as well. You can consider turning that off to save some space on iCloud, because really what you want iCloud for is just your settings, because that's the one that's the most difficult to restore all the time, like your messages and your contacts and all that stuff that's harder to restore versus photos, because you can back up photos easily going, like I said, hooking it up to your Mac and just backing it up. So, but what you do is for photos, you open the iPhone settings app, and then you navigate to the profile, go to iCloud. You'll see the breakdown of storage, and then you'll see one of the choices in iCloud that says Photos. If you tap the Photos section there, you'll actually be able to turn on and off the iCloud Photos option. And what else you also can do is just completely disable and delete it. What did you think of that? I guess it really depends on how your workflow works, right? And as far as photos go.
What I say is, if you can, do your best to try to pay for storage that will hold everything, and your pictures will take a lot of room, and that's going to take up most of your room. But it is really kind of awesome having your pictures in the iCloud and having them accessible on every device, and having your entire photo library accessible on all your Apple devices. For me, it's been a game changer, just being able to have my pictures with me, on my phone and on my computer, whenever I want. So that's my real advice, is if you could do it, then you could do it. We could sit here and talk about alternative storage for photos that we're not going to talk about. Which I'm going to. Well, so I guess we will, but there is alternative storage, which is basically going to be Amazon Photos, Google Photos, things like that. Yeah. Each of them has their own issues and benefits. But iCloud Photos is worth it to me, and I've used it since it's been available, and I have no regrets about it. But yeah, otherwise, clean up the backups. Generally, if you have multiple devices, you could, clean up backward. Sometimes if you have multiple devices, like you only need one backup. Like if you have an iPad mini and an iPad Pro, you could back up one and don't worry about backing up the other, because you could restore that one to both of them. Yep. But yeah, my thought is to pay for it. Just pay for it.
Well, there's two other options. If you don't want to use iCloud at all, well, Google Photos, that's a good option. And Google allows you to upload your photos albeit it does only allow uploads of the lower quality photos, so it will change the quality of photos, which is only downside to that. Another option is if you're an Office 365 subscriber, if you have OneDrive available to you, they give you 1 terabyte of storage for OneDrive, and you can easily sync all your photos onto OneDrive using that. And that 1 terabyte, that's great. And if you're already an Office 365 subscriber, then there's no reason to have the iCloud for your photos, so you can just back up all your photos on there. OneDrive is great. I mean, I use it in the corporate world, and it has gotten a lot better the way Microsoft's been managing it. So,
yeah, I mean, it's we could sit here and have debates about privacy and ease of use and all that, but we don't do that here because it's a non-winnable argument. In my
That's
opinion.
right.
But I've done the Google Photos. Amazon Photos is actually not even that bad too. But there's definitely alternatives. But if you could shell out to $2 or $3 a month, then do it.
Yeah, and the other option is deleting your iCloud Drive folders. iCloud Drive, if you store files on your device, you can go into the iCloud Drive, and then there is a choice there of deleting documents and data. So if there's specific documents and data that are saved on for specific apps, you can go in and remove that. Now, beware if you do go in and do that, especially messages. Messages is probably the most important of all the things you want to probably back up. You want to make sure that you're not deleting that, because otherwise you'll be losing all those messages that you have. And a lot of people live in their messages. Trust me, I've seen it.
Yep.
What do you think?
They're hard to clean out, but yeah, if you have a Mac, there's an easier way to do it too. If you go into manage the Apple menu and you go about this Mac, and then you go to manage storage, and then manage. From there, it will show you all your messages as one of the categories with the attachments in there, and you can go in there and delete them out. And if iCloud message sync is on, it will kind of delete them out everywhere. So I found that to be a little bit easier if you have a Mac to do it there.
Yep. So so that's my little spiel, our little spiel on backups and iCloud, and just be aware of it. And all we have to say is make sure you're backing up. I don't want to hear any of these horror stories I keep hearing that I lost all my contacts, I lost all my calendar entries, I lost all this information because you weren't backing up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Don't delete out things until you know that you're sure that that
exactly
you don't need it, or it's. I've heard stories of people trying to save the space in iCloud and then realizing they shouldn't have done that. So just be sure what you're doing. Read the link that you is there a link that you put in there, or no? We just talked about it. But
no, I'll put the link for how to back up.
How to free up storage and things like that.
Yep, we'll put a link in the show notes on that, and there's some articles out there, including what we just talked about. So, but yeah, please back up.
Yep.
I can't not talk about that on the show at least 2 times a month, at the minimum, because you got to back up. Another tip, I wanted to talk about how you automatically request a desktop version of a website on iOS. Do you do that a lot? Do you ever request the desktop version of a website on your iPhone or your iPad?
There's 1 or 2 websites that I go to that you need to do it, but most of the time I don't need to do it.
Yeah. So the way you do that is, it's very quickly easy. The way to do it is if you basically go into Safari on your iPhone, and then when it's fully loaded, you'll see an icon on the top left. It's got the 2 A's. It's an AA icon on the address bar. When you tap that, a menu appears, and that gives you the option to request the desktop website. Basically, what that does is it brings up the desktop version of the website, because there might be, in some cases, I've seen tons of times that the web version of a website is nowhere near as accessible as the desktop version, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you click that and just be sure that you're in that mode, so it goes to that type of site. And if you don't, once you close out the browser and go back in again, it'll revert back to the mobile version again. And what you can do also is if you want to permanently request a desktop website for a site, you can always have that full desktop view of that site. The steps are very similar, but you have a little different as far as how that happens. So the same thing, you're going to go to the Safari on your iPhone, and when the page fully loads, tap the AA icon, and then the menu appears. Go to website settings under while viewing, section toggle request desktop website. You tap done. And then that's it. Then if you want to set it automatically and immediately to the desktop version, just do it again, reverse the steps. And then that'll give you an option making it permanent. And sometimes it doesn't always stick, but you always can go back and do it again. So, but again, I think that with this tip, I don't think a lot of people request desktop versions of the websites on that. So, so don't fret it. If you don't have to go to that desktop version of the website, then just use the web version of it. It's fine. Any other comments on that?
Nope. Sounds good to me.
Yep. And then, I wanted to throw one app in the mix. I don't know if is there any apps that you've been using as of late that are new to you? One of them I would
really. No, I don't have any. So go ahead.
One of them I would that stands out to me is had been using is Instacart. Have you used Instacart before?
No, not yet. We've used other type of things, but not that.
What other services are out there that you use?
Well, I mean the grocery stores here have their own versions of it. So like,
oh really?
Yeah, like ShopRite has ShopRite from home. So basically, that's our local merchants. So we could go online, do their app, and basically order online. So I think Instacart is more for different, not just one store, right?
Right. I mean, I can go to Costco, Sam's Club, and in all my local grocery stores, which is nice. It gives you a full out choice. I never thought of using that before because to me that's kind of lazy. So I think I can go drive to the grocery store to load up, but in this day and age with the coronavirus and pandemic, we want to be safer. Granted, you still have somebody that is touching and grabbing stuff off the shelf for you. You still got to clean all the boxes, regardless if you go to the store or if you. Or if they do it for you, but it is really convenient. So the app is really easy to use, very smooth, allows you to shop through the store and make decisions on what you want. And they got a neat feature where you can go in and they'll know right away if the store is low on stock. And it says, if it's low on stock, do you want this as a substitute? And a lot of times I would go in and say, no, I don't want that. If it isn't available, I don't want it. So a good example was toilet paper came up and I said, well, maybe they have it. And I says, I flagged it. Well, if not available, I don't want anything. And sure enough, it wasn't available.
We don't have toilet paper.
What a surprise.
We don't have toilet paper, but we have goldfish. If you want goldfish instead.
Yeah, I could have got goldfish instead. No, it came up with a similar type of paper product of some sort, which had nothing to do with toilet paper.
Right. Sandpaper.
But which is good, and so you got to be. That's one of the things when you go into the site and use the app is be sure. Are you really sure they're going to substitute stuff? Because I did get in a situation where we wanted to get some yogurt and they didn't have the yogurt that we wanted, and then they substituted some yogurt that was higher calorie and higher sugar, so we didn't want that. So, so you could kind of be aware of that. But the other cool thing too is actually that when the shopper is in the store actually shopping, you actually can chat with them in real time and say, hey, I did it too. It says, hey, can you pick me up some bread? I forgot to put that on the list. And they say, sure, no problem. And then they go ahead and do it for you. And some salad. I had some lettuce I wanted to buy because it actually wasn't listed for Sam's Club. I went to Sam's Club and it wasn't listed. And I'm like, okay, could you look for this Dole garden salad? And she found it, but of course it wasn't on their catalog of stuff that you can normally pick from the choices when you add them to the list. So deliveries are pretty quick, and of course in this day and age right now, what's going on? It sometimes you could be postponed for a few days, but anyway, check it out. I have a link in the show notes for Instacart, their app, and I believe they're owned by Amazon now. There was its own independent company, but I believe Amazon now owns them. But they're running independent for now. So that was interesting. But I didn't see Whole Foods as a choice to shopping. So
There's another, I think I saw a commercial for another company that does a similar thing. Maybe it's Ship It or something. I can't remember the name, but it's the same deal.
But there are plenty out there, but that's just one you could check out. And
people are out there risking their lives for our lettuce. I mean, that's good. Yeah, it sounds like they get paid for it. Yeah, the people want money, and some people are not, as worried as others, and that's fine. And if they want to do it, they could. There's no gun to their head, and they get paid. So there's people that work in, people go to work at jobs every day that are dangerous and get paid for it, and it's just one of the things.
It sure is. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap things up for this week. Please, and thanks everybody on Facebook Live or watching us record. Shout out to everybody there. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, suggestions, and questions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios, or you can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts and many others. Or better yet, just go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. Warren, where can everybody find you?
I'm usually on Facebook at the Mac to the Future group on Facebook, which is a great place to hang out and talk about a bunch of topics, including technology, mostly including technology. I'm on this show, and I do Twitter at WSclarer, but I haven't checked it in like a year, so.
All right. Appreciate you being here as always, Warren. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
See ya.